Alrighty, so apologies to begin with. I'm going to be jumping between these two slides here and a couple internet videos I have pulled up. I don't have video editing software that I can find for free, and I don't want to download a whole new thing to my computer for this project. Um, Anyways, I'm going to start now. The Mongolian Empire at its peak in 1206 AD spanned over the better part of Eurasia, covering most of the continent, about 9.27 million square miles of land. That was nearly double the land covered by the height of the Roman Empire in the Trajan era, which covered only about 5 million square miles. For another comparison, the entirety of the United States covers only about 3.12 million square miles. The Mongolian Empire was literally triple the size of our country. That's nuts, especially for that time back then. It's like 800 so years ago. It's incredible that they were able to keep the amount of power they had going on for the time they did. Anyways, the Mongolian Empire was unified by Genghis Khan, also known as Temujin, also known as Genghis Khan, or whatever else you want to call him. He had like at least three different names, but he probably had a couple dozen more. He was known for his ruthlessness, his military genius, and for his ability to annex other nations and tribes very, very quickly into his ever-growing empire. This unification caused a massive clash and blending of cultures that produced very fascinating and innovative ideas in song and dance, specifically with song, though. This blend in cultures would create some of the most fascinating music on earth. Its influences can be heard today in classical folk tunes from that area and in some modern Western blended music as well. The Mongols are arguably most well known musically for their throat singing, overtone singing techniques, and their horse headed fiddle, known as I apologize in advance for this pronunciation, anyone who may have any idea how to speak Mongolian, but it's the Morin Kur. I'm just going to call it the horse headed fiddle because that's easier and I don't have to butcher pronunciation. Um, the horse headed fiddle and their song format known as the long song, two separate words. Along with a handful of other instruments, the sound of the singing and fiddle alone provided a rich and unique sound not found anywhere else on Earth. Just for fun, here is a small sample of a modern interpretation of this style of music mixed with Western styles. That one, it's this one. So that is a band called The Who. If you were here like at the beginning of the semester, I think we listened to at least part of a song by these guys. Sorry, I don't know what I was doing up there. Just flipping between the things. Anyways, The Who is like a more modern interpretation of Mongolian throat singing mixed with heavy metal. And it provides a really unique and fun sound that like they use in video games and movies and TV shows and stuff. They did like Star Wars trailers and whatnot. And a Star Wars game. Anyways, there are a few different variations of the Morin Kur instrument here. So it's going to be this horse-headed fiddle. It's got a couple strings, and then the horse head facing. Traditionally, it's supposed to face towards the front of the instrument, which is facing like away from the player. So it's going to face these strings. For some reason, these guys decided to turn it sideways. I'm sure that's just a modern kind of a thing, but traditionally, it's supposed to face forward towards the direction of where the music would be going. Mongolian traditional instruments include string instruments, wind instruments, drums, and gongs. They made their instruments across the ages. So they used metal, stone, bamboo, leather, and wood, like just across the years, depending on what technology they had available. And they introduced this instrument to the world in probably the height of the Mongolian Empire, because that was when it would be able to spread the most. The importance of this instrument is both spiritual and magical to the nomadic peoples of Mongolia to this day. There are some settlements that heavily resemble the traditional aspects of Mongolia mixed with some modern technologies for easing the strain of the harsh winters in that region. The families who own horses will sometimes play the horse-headed fiddle for them. And it's just a really interesting sound. I didn't know you could do some of this stuff on the instrument. They like make it sound like a horse towards the end. I'll show you guys right now.
The steppes of Mongolia, in the heart of Central Asia, sometimes echo with the haunting sound of music that reaches into the hearts of animals and men.
It's just for ease of watching, I guess. It's interesting because like you can, it sounds like there's multiple instruments here. It's the horse noise I was talking about. It's kind of cool. Okay. Anyways, I don't know. I haven't looked into it a whole bunch, but I really like the way that they kind of just suddenly end it. It sounds sudden and abrupt and like just so not what we're used to in our Western culture. Maybe he just like got tired and stopped. I don't know how it's supposed to end. Or even if that was like a song that was like written for anything outside of the purpose of playing it for the animal. No, not that page. Okay, traveling back in time now, back to the height of the Mongol Empire, 800 or so years ago. The song titled In Praise of Genghis Khan is considered a Mongolian traditional song, and unfortunately for the life of me, I cannot find the origin of the year the song was debuted. Only samples and publications on YouTube, which is what I'm going to be diving into further in just a minute. The piece demonstrates the use of throat singing, overtone singing, and a flute-like, native instrument, which I believe is called the limbe. Limbe, I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. It sounds like a higher pitched plucked string instrument in some cases. Or not, sorry, I'm wrong. In the song, it sounds like there's another instrument there. I think it's probably just the fiddle though. I can't tell you just by listening to the music. I'd have to see a live performance. One of the most recognizable characteristics of the composition of this song is that there are drawn out sections of the piece that have very, very little movement. And there are only a few words in the song for how long it is. I mean, it's like just over 5 minutes, and there's like 30 something words. Certain long songs, such as, I'm just going to translate it, it's called The Old Man and the Bird, have a length of up to 3 hours if you were to sing the full length with the complete 32 stanzas. I got that off of Wikipedia. I don't have 3 hours, I have about 15 minutes, so I'm going to choose the short, long song to try to explain. Contextually, if this song was created during the Khan's reign, it would have been sung and performed in ceremony or celebrating a victory of the Mongols, the annexation of new land, or for the celebration of the Khan himself. In English, the words of the song translate to blessed by the eternal sky, born of the steppe, everywhere in blue-skied Mongolia, his name resounds in the world. The courageous Mongol Genghis, the sublime Lord Genghis, that is like a repeated phrase throughout this. So it's like kind of like the chorus of our song style, I guess. Even in the burning wounds, a mind as strong as steel, like temporal swords, as powerful as a planetary bird. I'm pretty sure some of these things are lost in translation because that doesn't make sense at all. But we're gonna go with it. And then it goes, the courageous Mongol Genghis, the sublime Lord Genghis, blessed by heaven, possessed half the world, ingrained in his spirit is in the majestic and mighty world. And then it's the courageous Mongol Genghis, sublime Lord Genghis, and it repeats it one more time. Just Mongol Genghis, sublime Lord Genghis. And that's like over 5 minutes. That's like 30 words. That's crazy. I'm gonna play the music for you guys towards the end of this, but for a 5 minute song, the lyrics are very limited, which is interesting and unlike our Western music. Which our music builds up to a climax at the end or towards the middle of the section normally. Our Western music also focuses heavily on lyricism and a progression and progression, which is a heavy contrast to the Mongolian music that I've heard, like traditional Mongolian music, not the Western ones. The song begins very strong and fades into almost nothing and comes back for a revisiting at the end of the first stanza again. As you can see, the song lyrics alone are praising Khan. It's not quite worship, but it does place him on a higher pedestal than a king or a ruler would have normally been placed on. The people thought of him as a divine conqueror sent from heaven to secure the world for the Mongolian people. He created the largest empire in modern history and annexed millions under his influence. You can see why a normal person in that empire and that time would view him with such reverence. On the flip side, however, the song could have also been played in areas which were prone to rebellion, reminding them of the supposed divine nature of their ruler to keep them in check, or they might face his wrath. It's a good way to kind of remind you people. So, I don't know. I think it's cool. Today, it's more of a historical piece. Some Eastern cultures may hear this and feel more connected to ancestral ties to Khan, be it blood or fire or whatever. Regardless, by listening to the song, we're able to take a step back into the minds of the people living 800 years ago, under the rule of the Mongol Empire. Because the empire was so massive, they were able to spread their influences far and wide, musically and culturally. Throat singing and native instruments and the popularization of the long song format were widely known and practiced throughout almost the entirety of Eurasia. Let's take a listen to this piece called In Praise of Genghis Khan. I will pause and interject occasionally just to reference the instruments and the vocal style and whatnot so you're aware of the different kinds of tones and timbres you're listening to. Listen at the beginning for the use of drums, the horse-headed fiddle, and what I believe could be a classical guitar. I'm sure this was recorded not super long ago, but it sounds like it would have been a traditional folk song. They just modernized it for the sake of performance, probably. Alrighty. I'm just gonna play it and let you guys listen. Just so I can click back into it. Conveniently, that's where I wanted to stop anyways. If you listen closely, you can hear at least 2 tracks of vocals here. One, a low throaty growl, and the other harmonizing as the melody. You can hear it more towards the end of the lines. Like one of them cuts out, and you can hear the other one really well. Just try to listen for it as you're going along. Right there, it's really easy to pick it up. Okay, so you can see here, I'm gonna turn it down for a second or pause it. In this section, there's like, it's a decent sized gap where the vocals just don't come in. The instruments dominate the musicality of the song. Also, in the next verse or whatever you want to call it comes up, listen for the overtone singing at the end of it. Okay, so I'm gonna let this keep going in the background for a little bit. At this point, yeah, I turned it down already, to just kind of be background noise. Um, from this point on until like 3 minutes from now, the song consists of like long overtones and extended phrases with very little energy in comparison to the part of the song that we just listened to. We hear the limbe here, which is that instrument right there. The whistle that kind of sounds like birds chirping almost. I think it's supposed to replicate that. Yeah. A gradual crescendo, decrescendo of the music, depending on the melody that the limbe has, followed by a lot of overtone singing here that sounds like a buzz. Very cool vocal style. Now we're about to get in like 20 or so seconds. There we go. Sorry, we're gonna get a mix here in just a second on the throat singing and the overtones. Notice that the music is steadily building in the background up to the second verse, like just noticing the intensity of the instruments and the kind of musicality of the song and the voice. That higher pitched instrument there, I believe, is actually overtone singing mixed with the limbic. Okay, so after this second and final verse, notice just how abruptly the piece stops at the end. I'm just gonna kind of let you guys watch the video, just for like enjoyment purposes right now. And that's the end of the song. They have like a bunch of stuff in the background that doesn't really matter. Or it doesn't really matter. It's just silence for like the last 15 seconds. Alrighty, well, that's the piece. After listening to it, I think that you can pick up the sense that it is technically a long song because of its extended phrases, extended harmonic tendencies, and the very long periods without any real more movement towards something new. It's just a lot of the same repetition within the instruments, and the only thing changing, well, I mean, I guess it kind of changes like drastically from one section to the other, but it's just long sections of the same thing and then followed by long sections of a different thing. It's not really progression, it's just kind of changes. Um, and it's very different than our Western music, and it really feels as though the consistency in timbre and tone drags, and consistency of the tone and timbre drags the piece on for a long time. Um, Realistically, the song is going by relatively quickly, aside from that middle part with the limbe and the overtone singing. That was a very slow, laid back section. To sum up, the Mongols had some very cool and fun music. And without the Mongol Empire to spread that back in the day, we wouldn't have that music around now. Like The Who or whatever what other bands you want to call it. Which would be a shame because I personally really enjoy it. Whether it's in celebration or remembrance, or even if you're just in the mood to listen to something unique, Mongolian music today still shares these ancient traditional qualities, which will take you back through history when you listen to them. And that's all.